All righty. Let's try this again, shall we? After we were so rudely interrupted because I spoke it into existence. Within the first 15 seconds of me starting the previous stream, I go, man, this sure feels like a time that a police chase is going to happen and I'm going to have to bail. The moment those words come out of my mouth, police chase. Those Fridays in Los Angeles. Fridays, first of the month, payday, rush hour equals chases. Always. It's usually between like 3 and 11 o'clock. The likelihood of a chase is wee wee. It's like everyone's standby. Everyone's on standby. All right. I think we're live. Are we live? I think we're live. What's happening? What's up, Noti Gang? All right. I know you guys had to come over here. I'm making you switch between platforms like crazy. So we go from Twitch, but we're live here on Twitch as well as Twitter and on YouTube as well. Back for another edition of Q&A. We're a little delayed. Usually it starts around 3 o'clock, but when we have concurrent programming, at times it does get in the way. So talk to me, people. What's good? Let's pick up where we left off, shall we? Got much to discuss. Eliana Gang, indeed. Anytime that she's in the air, it's like drop everything. Police chase goddess. What's up, Stony? Noti Gang. What's on your guys' mind? Talk to me. I'll be here for the next 30 to 45 minutes. Doesn't have to be all NBA related unless you so choose. No. And when I say NBA related, please ask something other than are the Pacers going to sweep? No. OKC is going to win this series. It's just, well, you know what? I picked them in 5 and I needed Indiana to win a game at some point. So the good news is we got the tough part out of the way. But that defense just set a historical mark last night, forcing turnovers. That will translate to every single game. Every game. Making tough shots doesn't always. Now, are they going to be able to score points off of turnovers is the real question. Because the Pacers, at least, they were turning the ball over a lot, but they were able to hold the line defensively when the OKC Thunder get out into the open floor to punish you, as they have all season long. Historical turnover differential was not taken advantage of yesterday. But yeah, I would anticipate the defense traveling better than the Pacers making those shots and coming back again. But listen, they create their own luck, man. They really do. They execute. They've now done this in every series. First, it was Gary Trent Jr. How did the ball go through his legs? And then Halliburton hits the shot and he stands on top of the scores table. Game 2, the step back on Ty Jerome. The shot in game 1 where it hits the back of the iron, it goes up into the rafters, and it somehow, some way falls through this little 6 square foot hole. Not square foot. Whatever. Is it square feet? How do you measure square feet with a circle? Is that circumference? What's up, JPZ? Welcome in. Welcome back. Told you, I appreciate everyone coming over. Everyone packs the building with the police chases, but when we switch platforms, sometimes it's a little difficult to retrain habits. But kids these days should be used to be bouncing between apps. What was I saying about the Thunder, OKC, Pacers? I mean, Halliburton's 13 of 15 now on the season. Shots to tie or take the lead in the final 2 minutes. That's not an accident. You got to stop letting him get to that right hand. There was a play at the 9:30 mark in the third quarter where you can watch him. He's on the left side of the floor, and he does an in and out dribble against Lou Dort that just shakes him out of his shoes. And then he gets into the paint for a floater. And I'm at the point now where I'm willing to give him a wide open anything as long as it's with the left hand, because he starts bunny hopping and gathering up the power in that dribble. And then that first step has just been untouchable. He gets anything he wants off of it. Shea was good last night, but he had played 39 minutes. Dagnall trying to steal the 2 minutes between 9.5 and 7:30 when they were up 15 after the J-Dub breakaway. I think it was 94-79 was the score. And then SGA stays on the bench because OKC has a little bit of a cushion, but that lead 15 goes to 8 within a minute and a half. Timeout, OKC. Then Shea comes back on the floor. If we're going to nitpick at all, it was that moment right there. But you have to think, like, listen, we're up by double digits. He's going to get his scheduled rest. But you just had a week off. I feel like you could have probably put Shea out there just to ensure you get to the finish line, because there is no guarantees with this Pacers team, let me tell you. Oh, you're right. Yeah. Kat says, hold on. Just got some chats coming in here. Kat says turnovers were way down for the Pacers in the second half. So you're right. They had 19 in the first, which is the most in any half in any NBA Finals game ever. Franchise history. They set all sorts of futility marks, and then they went out there and did the complete opposite in the second half. I have all of these stats listed because I was doing them on the show today. So Indiana just tied the fourth largest, the largest fourth quarter comeback in the finals in a win in the last 50 years. The Pacers won an NBA Finals game. They led for exactly 0.3 seconds. They now have 4 game-tying or go-ahead field goals in the final 5 seconds of the fourth quarter or overtime. The Indiana Pacers are the first team in NBA history to win a playoff game when committing 16 or more turnovers than their opponent. Not total, but more than their opponent. First game that OKC has dropped to an Eastern Conference team at home in the last 15 calendar months. The Pacers rallied from a 15-point deficit to win game 1. The last team to do that in a finals game was Rick Carlisle's Dallas Mavericks in 2011. NBA teams were 0-121 when down by 7 points or more in the final 3 minutes of regulation in the NBA Finals over the last 28 postseasons. That record is now 1-121. And we heard from Halliburton after the game, by the way. He was talking about the comfort level of that final possession and why Rick Carlisle didn't call timeout. Did you guys notice what happened there? So Rick Carlisle said, just go ahead. Even though Lou Dort's on the floor and OKC has a stout defensive lineup, because the ball got into Halliburton's hands in the backcourt. He said, we'll get a better look here than we probably will drawing up an ATO where Mark Daigneault can draw up his own defensive schemes. And you can see Carlisle looking to the backcourt instead of moving his chess pieces around the front court. Because if that was the case, it was already in his mind that we're going no matter what. If he starts like moving people to the corner and stuff. But instead, you see Rick Carlisle looking to the backcourt. Oh, Halliburton has it? All right, play this shit out. Because if he didn't have it, if Cason Wallace was up in his chest, we may have seen a timeout from Rick Carlisle and then reset, because I got to get the ball to Tyrese. And it's not that Tyrese was lighting the world on fire last night, but at this point, he could be 0-15 and you're still drawing the play up for him regardless. So that was interesting to watch. Now, the only good news, I guess, for Oklahoma City is they've been here before. Aaron Gordon hit that wing 3 against them, and people walked out of the arena with the same exact stage of grief that they had in that series. That last night it occurred again. And they responded. OKC ended up winning. So kind of have to just compartmentalize all of that and move on. Let's see what else we got. Do the Pacers have a shot at winning this series? Yeah, I think OKC is going to win every single game for the rest of it, but thought OKC would win game 1 too. They're just better. And that those turnovers, that is not a statistical anomaly. They are going to turn you over near 20 times, especially at the pace that Indiana is playing with. They're going to turn the ball over a shit ton of times. Do you guys think they did him a favor by starting Cason Wallace instead of Isaiah Hartenstein? Dagnall looked like a genius for 2 hours by doing that. Just because they lost, we can't second guess that. But if you have Hartenstein on the floor, then Pascal Siakam has to guard someone who's bigger than him. He is such a problem because he's so versatile. And if you go Cason Wallace, you're going smaller, and then Siakam gets the most important offensive rebound of the game, which was Andrew Nembhard's air ball with 50 seconds left. Like, that guy is always getting his paws on the fucking ball, man, when it matters. What do I think about the Knicks firing Tibbs? Okay. What else? That was the best day on Twitter yesterday. What are some top Twitter days ever? I mean, the 100 men versus one gorilla was pretty good. But there's been some banner days dating back to like when Osama bin Laden got killed. That was a big day on Twitter. What else? Maybe the chat can the NBA is responsible for a lot of them too. The kidnapping of DeAndre Jordan was a massive one. This is before everyone was using Twitter, so there was monoculture on social media. Like, whether you followed sports or not, you couldn't avoid this topic if you were on Twitter. Assuming they didn't steal the car, can the non-drivers be prosecuted? They could just say, hey, we told them to stop. Yeah, I've always wondered how that goes. I'm sure they could charge them with whatever they want, but I would think the passengers most of the time are not hit with the same charges that the driver is. What's up, Amir? Okay. Nico came in here and said last night was a coaching debacle. You can't think different. Can you tell me why you thought it was a coaching debacle? What did Dagnall do that you would have improved? Where do I get these numbers, Rob? Twitter? Seems like all the pressure is on OKC, and that doesn't exist. There is no, after what OKC is stamped at this point, after that game 5 and game 7 versus Denver, there's no more of this like young, youthful team feels the heat of playoffs. Watching Shea go shot for shot with Jokic in game 5 when he hit that soundboard shuffle on Chet Holmgren, and Shea was there to match it every single shot along the way. J-Dub had a couple of stinkers in a row, and we were at the point that we were proposing Kevin Durant going back to Oklahoma City in a J-Dub package, and then he delivered game 7 plus multiple games after that, and he's proven to be that complementary piece to Shea that can handle the offense so that it's not just one-dimensional through him. Now, Shea didn't get to the line as much as he probably would have preferred, but you give Indiana's defense credit for that one for sure. I watched Andrew Nembhard pull the chair on Shea last night in that first quarter when Shea was in midair. You saw when he was trying to jump into him and draw contact, but Nembhard knew it was coming, and Shea still made the shot anyway. What's this series at, by the way? Thankfully, our Profit X can tell us the answer to that. What is this specials? What are these specials going on here? Man, Shea to win finals MVP's down to minus 300. All right. Pacers are 11-point dogs in game 2. Holy crap. Let me get this up on the screen. Hold on. Where's the series price? Look at that. Minus 480 plus 470 in a single game. You're getting paid nearly 5-1 if you think the Pacers can replicate what they did. That's nuts. I still think OKC wins, but that's an insane number for a team that just keeps, riding on this heater. The Pacers are on a legendary heater for 5 weeks. Still, OKC committed coaching malpractice for the final 3 minutes of game 1. You mentioned the chess pieces. 5 knights can't beat a queen, rook, 2 bishops, and a pawn. Lineups matter. I was not expecting you to deliver your answer with such substance. I appreciate that, Nico. Nicely done. You do make sense. I get the analogy. Bayo says Casey Wallace played phenomenal defense on that as well. He makes him go from one side of the court to the other, but unfortunately, it was his right hand, and that, of course, is where Halliburton thrives. So, well, the one on Ty Jerome was to the right hand, and then he crossover step back from the above the break three. So that was all the result of him. Eventually, he goes to the left, but it's always starts with the right. What do you think of some media members saying small market teams make for what are these questions? They're going to say that because it's low hanging fruit and it's easy content. That's always the answer. And the ratings just came out for game one. They're terrible. Of course they are. But because the game is awesome, you might have more viewers for game two because now they're interested to see how this underdog responds. If OKC goes out there and blows the doors off of Indiana, like people are not coming back unless there's a game 6 and a game 7. So game 2 should actually be higher. And also it's a weekend. I think you'll see that number go up, but the ratings are not like a determination. That was great basketball last night. And it was really big, I think for the international viewer as well, because the finals get distributed in countries all around the world. You could be in some South Pacific island in the middle of the ocean, and they barely get any television channels, but they get the finals because it's available. It's a lot of those licensing and distribution rights come through for the finals. So when you get a big game like that, you're going to have a lot of first time and new viewers, and now they're hooked on the product. So they're going to watch the finals, and hopefully they stick around for the remainder of the series. And I think that's the scope and perspective that you have to have when discussing the NBA, because it's pretty much a consensus at this point. After like UEFA Champions League, the World Cup and the Olympics, I don't include because it's once every 4 years. But UEFA Champions League and the English Premier League are 1-2 in regards to worldwide popularity, and the NBA is a close third. So their relevance in worldwide culture within the United States here, it's the NFL dominates, but that's just this country. The NFL doesn't have the same appeal globally that the sport of basketball and the NBA does. So when you have a big finals game like this and all these different continents are watching it, I find that to be really important because this is a global game. And the product is consumed by so many different areas of the world that when you have a good game one and you make that first impression, that will go a long way by the time we get to the end of the series. And yes, game one may have had poor ratings, but for the long-term health of the product, that really helped. Now, the conversation about the way that it looked, that's also kind of an ordeal. Small Tower says, anyone else think the Thunder were going to steamroll the Pacers? I'm stunned. Oh, I'm getting examples in the chat. Oh, the Boston Bomber Day. That was a big one. That was one of the biggest ones by far because everyone was like trying to find him on Twitter. NY Yankee says, the second you change something that got you where you are, you lost before the first tip of the final of the series. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. Missed the game, but saw Nembhard and Halliburton struggled early. What changes going forward? Did Chet and J-Dub struggle that badly? No, I mean, Chet was just more non-existent, which is probably worse. Sometimes even worse than an F is an incomplete on the report card. No, I thought the presentation from ABC, Disney, ESPN was poor. Didn't meet the magnitude of the moment. Felt like a regular I'm with you. I'm with a lot of these people that were complaining. It felt like a regular season game because I am alive to feel that nostalgia of what it could look like. Now, if you're a kid, you're like, "Oh, that just feels like every other game that I've grown up watching." But man, the presentation that NBC would put on for you before a 90s game, it would be a 3-minute theatrical trailer with voiceovers by Marv Albert and Bob Costas, like with some serious Hollywood level editing, even in the 90s. And then they would come out of it into the round rock and they would go down to the court. They would show you the starting lineups. They do the national anthem. Like it was this 20 minutes of like, this feels like a big game. This feels like it just never once yesterday felt like a big game. We're doing commercials. We got the studio talking, then going to more commercials. None of those things are included. And think of the other sports. I just watched the Stanley Cup where they do both national anthems, that each player is standing on the blue line and they introduce them one by one. The crowd cheers, the crowd boos. And, they've got these little like montages that they put together of monologues and stuff. And it's like, oh, this is you just know you feel a big game. The World Series puts all the starting 9 onto the field and they go one by one. Then they have a ceremonial first pitch with a legend, sometimes even like a president of the United States will throw out the first pitch sometimes. None of that happened. None of that happened. It was even close. I felt like I was watching Pacers versus Thunder on a Wednesday night in December. Yeah, the spread went from 9 and thank you, Nico. Went from 9.5 to look at this on ProfitX right now. 9.5 to 11. I mean, these towers in Las Vegas did not build themselves. That is a lot of points to be given the Indiana. It's 11 for a reason. Because if OKC if they've won games at home by 50 and 40 points multiple times this postseason. And if they run away, they really run away. I don't know, but 11 points, man, against this team that just never dies. Can they just hang around enough? Because 11 points is usually reserved for like the Utah Jazz playing at Boston during the regular season. And maybe that's just due to the pace of the game here is so fast. So fast that 11 points doesn't carry the same equity that a regular season game would in regards to a favorite versus an inferior opponent. No, you know what? Cat says these are similar spreads for Pacers. I was on the Pacers in both of those games, so they were 6-point dogs in games 1 and 2, and I was on both the money. I was on the money lines and the spreads in those games and the series after game 1. So that's half of what the spread is against OKC, which I think is justified. I couldn't believe they were still, even in game 5, they had the Pacers as like 5.5-point dogs. I couldn't believe that. This is just a different beast with OKC. Michael Acosta in the chat says, if this finals was a first round matchup, hypothetical since they're in different conferences, would this have been the NBA TV series? Yeah, for sure. And that's because of market sizes. That's the only reason, not because of the quality of the play. But yeah, they determine that always based on the market size. And a lot of those teams in the central time zone, you can structure it so that you do like Knicks versus Pistons is the 7:30 game Eastern, and then there's a Milwaukee versus Cleveland or something. Those are sometimes central time zone teams, and it just lines up perfectly. They can tip off at 8. If it's a Western Conference team, it's 9, and then you have the 10 o'clock game with Steph or LeBron or whatever. They're no dummies there. They're trying to maximize their viewership, regardless of the quality of the basketball. But yeah, like Steph, if this was Steph versus LeBron, it would be pulling twice the number, but it may not be the same quality of basketball. Some people see a rating and equate that to, oh, big ratings means this series is good. Like that's just not the case. Someone asked, why are fans so fixated on ratings? Is the league in any kind of danger or in decline? It's the complete opposite. They have a contract, they have contracts signed through 2036 for gazillions of dollars with Amazon, NBC, and Disney to broadcast their product on their networks. The money's locked up. They could have 0 people watch and they're still going to cash those checks regardless. So what people do is they use ratings as more of a referendum on their own individual biases and preferences with things like current events, politics. You know, if people aren't watching the NBA, that means the majority are doing something else that should be prioritized in my life. So it's going to undermine what you are doing on a daily basis. That's really it. I mean, it's stupid, but that's the way that they think. They'll never admit it, but there's always socioeconomic or political agendas behind every single person who is talking about rating. What they're trying to do is tell you something that they are afraid to share a political belief of some kind. And they're doing it through the expression of ratings, saying like the NBA is terrible because of no one watches. That's just code for something that what they're really thinking. But yeah, people watch what you want. Just because other people aren't watching doesn't mean you should. Who gives a shit? As a Blue Jays fan, I hate your shirt. Okay, thanks. Blue Jays and Tampa Bay Rays are rivals like that? That doesn't make sense. I think you're just angry. Is Case and Wallace a game 2 starter? Yeah. They're going to run that back. They're definitely going to run that back. It was successful. If Miles Turner doesn't bank, like here we go again. Aaron Nesmith, if he doesn't make 6 threes against the Knicks, if Miles Turner doesn't bank in a 3, if Andrew Nemhard's air ball doesn't fall into Pascal Siakam's lap, there's always these ifs with the Pacers, but they do it so many times. The ifs are no longer impossibilities; they're more just improbabilities. Carter says, I've always thought this. Ratings matter because of selling to advertisers. Can companies really justify spending so much on advertisement, thinking it actually brings back a big ROI? I'd have to assume you're spending more for TV ads than what you think it makes for your company. Yeah, thinking it actually brings back a well, they're pitched at upfronts, right? These companies, these ad agencies are buying the NBA's content and product years in advance, and they have deliverables and expectations that the NBA is going to draw this amount of viewers. Therefore, this ad space is worth this amount of money. So that shit is paid for like way in advance. Obviously, it's budgeted and they go about business that way. Obviously, they wouldn't do it if they didn't feel like the ROI is there, even if it doesn't convert into customers. The branding on top of an NBA product, just by association, could go a really long way. Like you are an NBA partner, you pay for it, but some people would think of all the famous commercials that run during NBA games that people still talk about because they have that distribution within that community. But yeah, well, ratings matter for that reason, which is what makes the ESPN's presentation of like the starting lineups and before tip-off so frustrating, because they are only making on those additional commercials that they're showing you instead of Michael Buffer saying, let's get ready to rumble before Jazz versus the Bulls in 1997. Y'all remember that shit? Is anyone old enough for that? You got Michael Buffers with Bruce Buffer standing right next to him. You got Jazz Bear riding around the court on a Harley. They're shooting off fireworks. Like that was absolute cinema. But now we're watching commercials, which are probably worth what? $50 million to Disney. And considering the NBA's revenue has got to be in the multi billions, is it really worth ESPN pocketing that change? For them, that's change. $50 million. Butchering the brand identity of their own network, because now people are affiliating ESPN's coverage of the NBA as like, oh no. Well, you got compensated for that. You made your $50 million by sneaking in some more YouTube TV ads. But the court looks like a NASCAR hood. And that's not me being judgmental, because advertising helps pay my businesses, or pays my bills as well. But there is a healthy balance, right? There's got to be a healthy balance that you can still fund your business and grow without completely ruining the overall standing of your brand. And every playoffs that goes by, you hear the feedback from fans more and more that these little intricacies of the presentation are now affecting my enjoyment of the product. The good news for the NBA is basketball rules all. So if the hoop is good, people will find it regardless. But pulling in that new audience, or the one that left, you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to follow through with that pageantry, that pomp and circumstance, right? Amir says he stayed up till 6 a.m. watching the game last night. It's hard, man. It's hard watching. It is hard watching NBA in Europe or anywhere around Europe. Those hours are brutal. Yeah, well, TNT's out. TNT's out, and TNT's out, and it's just going to be more ABC Disney. But the good news is NBC will be here to save us. They will be tapping into the nostalgia, and I have faith that they will do things the right way. The NBC presentation of all of their sports, from horse racing to the Olympics to NFL, always feels big to me. And I certainly hope I can contribute to that. I would love nothing more. That's like my favorite brand ever. You know, people wear around Supreme and Kith and Versace and Gucci. Like NBA on NBC is my favorite brand. Like a NBA on NBC jacket I would wear with such pride. That's what I'm passionate about. And that brand is very sacred, all the way from the Round Ball Rock theme song to the way that they used to put the score on the screen for just a couple of seconds and they get rid of it and it's completely blank canvas. I love that shit, man. I wish we go back to that. No more scores, no more graphics, nothing on the screen. Just hoop. Just hoop. Simbo says, hey, Rob, from Adelaide, Australia, can you do a quick backstory of myself? I've been on this planet too many times. You got to ask more specific questions than that. I'm not Adam Silver, like my profile picture would suggest. What's everyone doing today? I think everyone's off Twitter. Because the Friday show, whenever I do a Friday show, it's always quieter than the Monday. The Monday is the busiest show because people are back at work, and because it's a summer Friday, people are probably commuting. It's always a little bit more quiet in here, and it's quiet on my timeline too. Yeah, I think that's just summer Fridays. 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, it's kind of a funky time, right? Wob, you're gonna hate this, but what's your sign? Ugh. Wee wee wee. Red flag, red flag. That is the easiest way for a date with Wob to end. Sorry, vegan. The answer you're looking for is Virgo. September birthday. 9/11. What are the chances? 1 in 365. What happened with that Dodge Charger? Yeah, just kind of ejectocetoed and pulled over. Eid el Adha. That sounds, is that a big, is that a religious holiday or a political holiday? I'm unfamiliar, so apologies. Yeah, I don't know how I could tell the story of Wob in less than 3 hours. What was the first chase I streamed, and how did you think to do that? 20s, it's got to be Periscope, so 2015, living in Los Angeles, just put the phone up next to the TV, and I was always fascinated by police chases ever since the OJ chase in the '94 finals with the Knicks and the Rockets, and just kind of started watching chases with other people. So I've now been doing it for 10 years. Can you believe this shit? I've been at it for 10 years, police chasing. Thousands. Vegan Barbie, something tells me that we were never going to work out anyway, even before I gave you my sign. I haven't had a vegetable since 8th grade. 8th grade. I have to take pills. I'm like Al Michaels. Once had someone dump me because I didn't eat vegetables. Can you believe that? A diet was the reason. Maybe the diet wasn't the reason. That was just the reason they said. What time did we start? 3:45. 3:45 ish. 3:50. So like got another 10 minutes or so. How about that? We're all on the pills. You're not special. There's no way vegan Barbie is on vegetable pills. You have vegetables every day. Why would you be on vegetable pills? You're just saying you're on other pills. Yeah, I'm on the vegetable pills, but I'm still alive. I'm still here. You guys watching the hockey game tonight? Who's favorite? That was great. That game one was. These are two awesome teams. Florida. Oh, Florida is practically a pick 'em. Oh, that's the real bet. Edmonton -1.5 at 2:30. I'm gonna have to bet that. Hold on. Give me $10 on because Edmonton wins in regulation. Bobrovsky gets pulled. I don't want to hit this button. I'll bet it. I'll bet it in a second. Gotta verify my location. I don't want it to dox me. What was I saying? Oh yeah, if Edmonton's up by 1, I always like to think that the team that's winning in regulation is going to win by at least 2 because of the empty netter. I'm like little Dicky with fruits. If you don't know, I do know. I watched Dave. I did enjoy the first couple seasons. I thought they got a little weird with the most recent one, but I know it's meant to be like that. Here, McDavid has got to be the best hockey player I've ever seen. No one should be that fast on skates. I wasn't paying attention when Gretzky was in his prime. I never thought Sidney Crosby was worthy of being the GOAT, but McDavid's definitely got the potential. That dude is ludicrous. So I want the Knicks to go all in on Giannis. It feels like it's coming, right? Because the reports are Dallas is getting requested permission from the New York Knicks to speak with Jason Kidd. What that implies is they obviously need a head coach, but they want to go to Jason Kidd and say, "Hey, we have back channeled Giannis, and he's going to be very willing and able, if traded, to come to New York. If Jason Kidd's the head coach, they love each other from the Milwaukee days. We know Giannis is a fiercely loyal, and he was always standard bearer for Jason Kidd, always. So if Jason Kidd ended up in New York, something tells me that Giannis will say, if you're going to trade me, of which he may not even have a choice, if you're going to trade me, I would prefer New York because Jason Kidd is there. That's what's going to happen. But they're not just going to give away Giannis for free. It's going to cost you Karl-Anthony Towns. I don't know if I'm in love with that. And if it's not Karl-Anthony Towns, it's got to be like OG and Mikal and everything else. Everything else. This feels like the Carmelo Anthony trade all over again. I hope not, because Brunson's there. Have I gotten centelled? I don't think I've ever been centelled, no. Rob, how was the 90s? Give us an honest answer. It was the best time to be alive, man, especially growing up. I wish every day was the 90s and early 2000s. The culture, the music, the world, the celebrities, the perspective, the everything. Everything was cool. Everything was good. All right. Nick's starter, any starter jackets, honestly. Yeah, I think the right coach and the right depth, the New York Knicks can get out of the Eastern Conference. The Pacers are going to be their version of the Nuggets and the Wolves. Like the Nuggets always have to deal with this team that's designed to beat them. And the Knicks need to develop some depth throughout the regular season, not just on paper. They got lucky that Delon Wright and Landry Shamet went out there and were able to fill that need, because Lord knows they certainly didn't have the work put in, the opportunity during the regular season to be able to match what Indiana is so good at. Goodfellas or The Godfather? Godfather. The real question is Casino or Goodfellas? Who is the Michael Jordan of TJ McConnell's? Jeff Hornacek. I bet you didn't expect me to have an answer ready for that one. Jeff Hornacek. Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr would be a good one. Dan Marley. No, it's got to be Steve Kerr. No, that's right. Yeah, Casino. I'm a big Casino guy. Not that Goodfellas is bad, but Casino. Love that movie. Sorry, these guys, they're playing tennis out my window right now, and they're very good, so it's very distracting. Beer of choice. Yeah, I'm simple. Modelo's will do. All right. It is Friday. I am ready for, speaking of a beer, I think that's a good time for me to sign off and say goodbye for this week, but I will be back on Monday. The Monday shows, you guys come in. We'll have a game on Sunday to discuss. and the Monday show after. And I think we'll get some more clarity. So I appreciate these chill streams. It seems to be a much more relaxed show. But the madness of a Monday, everyone back to work and is around. Join me then if you wouldn't mind. Shout out to our partners at ProfitX as always. If you guys are interested in investing in sports, I certainly hope you choose them for your needs. The nation's sports exchange. If you're watching this, ProfitX, you should have me do the voiceover. You guys know I did a voiceover for Serena Williams commercial. It was her Lincoln Navigator. You can find it on YouTube. It was when she was returning from having her child. And in the background, you can hear a sports announcer's like, can Serena do it? Can she make the return? Can she get the grand slam? I'm on the radio. Little gigs like that. Little stories. Always fun. Manic Monday. Good way to put it. All right, friends. It's been a pleasure. Look forward to the tennis tomorrow, the hockey tonight, and the hoops on Sunday. We'll be back to talk about it all. I'll see you guys on the timeline. Deuces.